Hey everyone, did you know that today is National Barbecue Day? Pretty cool, right? So here we got a brisket, 17.54 pounds. It's a choice brisket from Sam's Club. I'm going to show you how this gets prepared. I'm going to show you how to trim this, and I'm going to show you how to prepare it for the smoker. And I'm going to show you what you don't do. So let's get started. I'm going to put this, there's a pan right here. I'm going to put this in the pan because there's some purge. This liquid is not blood. It's water, mostly water from the muscles of the meat. It's not blood. It's called purge. So we're going to put this in the pan. I'm going to open this up so that purge gets in the pan and doesn't make a mess of my board here. So off to the side, I'm working off camera here. I'm going to get this opened up. My extra sharp Victorinox knife. And we're going to get this out of the bag, onto the board, and start to get it trimmed up. Okay. There we go. Point flat. If you look, you got some, there's a blood vessel mark there. Trim that off. Kind of look at this, and you'll see, there's some fat pockets. The stuff you want to trim off is, see how this is like brownish on the outside here? This is oxidized. This is what you want to trim off. Or any meat that looks like this. Okay, this is kind of, it's not going to hurt you, but it doesn't taste very good. So once I get this turned around, we'll trim this off on the side. This point and the flat look really good. There's not much that needs to be done with this. There's a little bit of oxidized fat right on this patch here that I'll take off, but the rest of it is good. So we'll cut this off. See that nodule right there, and get rid of that. Okay, it's gone. This little bit right here, we'll trim that off. Just this oxidized stuff. That's all you need to take off. You don't have to go crazy. Okay? You're not trimming all the meat off. Just that little bit of oxidation. That's it. Just keep your knife flat like you're going to do a fish fillet. And your knife will stay on top of the meat. And you'll have very, very, very little meat, roast meat, left on the fat. Very little. It does take a sharp knife to do this. You will not get this done easily with a dull knife. Now see this piece that I'm lifting up here is a hard fat pocket. So I'm going to take that off. But I'm not going to throw it away. I'm going to save that because I will use that in sausage. When I make beef kielbasa or beef snack sticks or something to that effect, I will use this in that preparation. So there's a piece of that hard fat. Now you'll see a lot of guys, they'll make this flat, like rounded. That is such a waste of meat. Unless you're grinding it for hamburger or you're making like you're adding it into sausage or you're making beef sticks or summer sausage or something like that. There's absolutely no need to make this round. You're not putting it into a jet stream to make it aerodynamic. It doesn't matter if it's going to be round or if it's square. Now, obviously, if there's some bad areas here, you're going to trim that off. But you don't need to make this make it look like a half circle. There's no need for that. Now, if you were doing a competition, that's different because in competition, that's only done for looks. Okay, it doesn't matter if it's squared or round. In competition, it's just done for looks. So the rest of this, some of this is some silver skin that we'll get rid of, and for the most part, we're looking really good. The point looks good. Or I'm sorry, the flat looks good. The point looks good. So now we're going to turn this around and we're going to trim off that oxidation that I showed earlier, which is right along this edge here. So there's some up here on this end, which is a pretty good sized chunk of fat. I'm going to cut that off, and once again, I ain't going to throw it away. I'm going to use that in my sausage. So, there's that piece of fat. And that's all I need to take off. I don't need to, scalp all this fat off here. Your fat is where your moisture and your flavor comes from. I mean, you're obviously, your flavors from your rub and the smoke, but your moisture is locked into the fat. The more fat you take off, the drier your brisket becomes, and you also risk having a higher percentage of burnt or dried out flat. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they trim their brisket, and they wonder why this section here is all dried out. So we're going to cut that out and get my fingers out of the way so I don't end up slicing them open. All right, there's this pocket of fat out of there. See, that chunk of fat, I'll put that through the grinder whenever I make sausage. And that's all I need to trim off of that. I'll get rid of this oxidation, like I showed before. Just real thin. Let the knife do the work. Just shave it off. There's no need to scalp it and go crazy. You can't even use that to render for tallow, because that brown oxidation will make your tallow bitter. Okay. Now, let's flip this over. Point, flat, all look great. Now, let's flip this over and work on the backside. This is actually looking pretty good. Not much I need to really do with this, because this is flavor. There's a little bit of discoloration. Not bad though. Not bad. A little bit. Not bad. Just shave some of this off. And once I get it all shaved off, some of it, we're going to get it seasoned up with, now today, normally I make my own rub to do this with. Today, I'm going to use a combination of some Lowry seasoned salt and McCormick's Montreal steak. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to rub this all up, and then I'm going to wrap it in saran wrap, put it back in the fridge, and let those spices meld back into the meat. Because once you get salt on meat, it starts to draw moisture out, and that moisture gets drawn back into the meat by reverse osmosis. So as that moisture gets drawn back into the meat, it's already seasoned and flavored, so you're drawing that seasoning and that flavoring back into your meat. That way it's not just sitting on the surface. So we'll get some of this off, more of this off here. And basically all I'm doing with this is just lightly going under the very top surface and taking this, I call it snot fat, because it's kind of slimy. I mean, it's not bad. It's just what I call it. It's not silver skin. It's just really weird feeling fat. So I'm just taking that little bit off of there. And that's it. This will go on the smoker tonight. I'll be putting this on probably about 9:30, 10 o'clock, somewhere around there. And I will run this on the smoker overnight till the next morning, and I will show you the process of how to get the best flavor and the most moisture into this brisket. Now that we've got it all trimmed up, we're gonna flip it over. We're gonna start seasoning it up, and then I'm gonna put it back into that pan that I had before. Actually, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna season it while it's in this pan. That way I don't lose any of my seasoning. So we're gonna put this in the pan. We're gonna get rid of this board. Here's a pro tip from working in a kitchen. When you have a big cutting board like that, this is a wood base. When you have a cutting board like that, take yourself a tea towel or what this is called, a bar mop rag. Wet it, wring it out, lay it flat on your table or on your board, or if you're working on like a stainless steel table, lay this flat, and then put your board over top of this towel, and that'll stop your board, your plastic board, your high definition polyethylene board from walking like this. Okay, this towel acts as like an anti-slip. So that's a culinary tip from the kitchen. This pan is a 2.5 inch depth, full size buffet pan, or you'll hear them called hotel pans. It is the perfect size for a brisket. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to season with the start. We're going to put some Lowry's down first, and then I'll flip it over, do the same thing. We'll do some McCormick's. Once I get all that done, then we'll wrap this up in plastic wrap, really good. Let it sit in the fridge in this pan until I get ready to put it on the smoker. Another thing you don't want to do is take your meat and bring it to room temp, or let the exterior come to room temp. Once meat gets above 40 degrees on the outside, bacteria starts to grow. Bacteria thrives between 40 and 140. So you don't want to do that. Heat, it's a myth. Heat does not kill all bacteria. Once that bacteria starts to grow, the spores of the bacteria start growing down into the meat, into the fibers of the meat. So you don't want to get this to room temp. The colder the meat, the more smoke it takes on, because it has to. The nitric oxide reaction has to come to a certain temp, and if it's colder, that reaction takes longer, and your smoke ring, even though it doesn't have any taste, your smoke ring becomes more prominent. So let's get some seasoning on this. We're going to start out with the Lowry's. Go easy. You don't want to overdo it, because Lowry's is salty. It smells good, but it's salty. Get that all rubbed on there, such as, and we're going to flip this over and get the other side started. A little bit. Okay. And you'll see the paprika in this start to make this look like reddish orange. That's normal. Now, here's a little interesting tidbit about this Montreal steak seasoning. It has celery seed in it. Celery seed is a natural nitrite. Okay? Nitrite absorbs into the meat, creates more nitric oxide, and the more nitric oxide it creates, the thicker the smoke ring. Okay, we're going to get some McCormick's on there now. Leave this coarse. Sometimes what I'll do is I'll put this through my spice grinder and I will turn it into a powder. Go heavy. It ain't going to hurt you. Rub it, get it spread out pretty good. Pat it in there. All these spices, when I wrap this, and notice, I did not put anything on this whatsoever. No binders, no Worcester sauce, no W sauce, no nothing. It is just strictly the moisture from the meat. And you see the rub, the spices, they're sticking. So guess what you don't need? Definitely not mustard. Mustard will ruin your rub, the taste of your rub. It can react with different spices in your rub and make it taste like crap. And you don't want that. So now we got that side done. Let's flip her over and get this side. Like I said, go heavy. Okay, that looks pretty good. Make sure you get your ends. Your ends need season too. Get this all patted in there. Get this. Get this seasoned up. Yeah, I don't have 4 hands. I'm not that gifted. So the extra hand that you see doing this happens to be my wife. So now that we got this all seasoned up, I'm going to set it off to the side for a minute. Clean my board up and get this all wrapped up. Rinse out this pan and put it back in the fridge. So let's take this off to the side, clean this up. She's going to get the roll of plastic wrap, and we're going to get that out on the board. Get that pulled out. And this is just your standard culinary service plastic wrap from Sam's Club. We've had this roll for ever. I think it's probably 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that. Now we're going to take that brisket out of the pan. Put it in. We'll get it all wrapped up. I'm going to take my gloves off so I can work with this better. And I don't have, seasoning all over the place. This roll of plastic wrap has seen its better days, and the cutter on it is non-functional. So scissors is what I use. Okay. Now we'll get this on there. Get this on here. Now I'm going to do what's called a cater wrap. Cater wrap is going this way, then turning it and going end over end the other way. And not only does that help lock in the flavors, but it helps it from not drying out. So we're going to get that picked up. I'm going to take another length of wrap and put it long ways. Just like that. Take this in over top of this. Push down on it. Get the air out of it. And then once you get your pan rinsed out, we'll put that back in the pan. Then later on, when this gets ready to go out on the smoker, I'll show you the next step. Until then, stay tuned. Okay, so continuing on with the brisket preparation cook. In this container, I have 16 cups of water with some of the bouillon cubes. Now you can use the paste, you can use whatever bouillon, you can use actual beef stock, whatever you want to use. But I have 16 cups in here. To this, I'm going to add some Kitchen Bouquet. Now you can use Gravy Master if you want to, but the Kitchen Bouquet actually has a better taste to it. But I'm going to add a little bit of this to here to darken it up some and give it some more richness. Okay. Okay, so now you see it went from that lighter brown to this darker brown, this like demi-gloss color. And basically when this starts smoking in the smoker and I have this in the pan underneath the brisket, that's what it's going to turn into almost, is a demi-gloss. So the next step is coming up. Okay, so here's our brisket from earlier, and it's seasoned all up and it's wrapped and it was in the fridge. There's our broth that we just made, the stock that we just made. Here's our rack. Now this is where it gets interesting. So we're going to get this unwrapped. And it really smells good already. But we're going to get this unwrapped. And then it's going to go from the pan, out of that plastic, onto this tray, onto this rack. And we're going to put it fat side down, which is this side here. We're going to put this fat side down on the rack. We want the meat side up for this part. Fat side down, meat side up. That looks amazing. That looks really good. The color on that is spot on. Okay, so once we have that on the rack, like that, we're going to take the rack and we're going to put it on this pan. It's going to sit on the top. Then once we get it out to the smoker, I'm going to take 8 cups of that stock and put it in the bottom of this pan. It's going to sit in the bottom of the pan. The brisket is going to sit on the rack on top of the pan. As it smokes, that stock is going to get smoked and is going to slowly evaporate into the meat. Our next step is we're going to get our probes in, and then we'll get it out on the smoker. Okay, this here is the Thermomaven. Okay, this is the Thermomaven 2-probe G2 series wireless thermometer. It's basically a Typher knockoff. There's the brisket. Okay, now I'm going to put 3 probes into this. I'm going to put a grill probe in here. I'm going to put one of these Thermomavens in up in here. And then another one down in the flat. And then we're going to get it on the smoker. Now the other thing I'm doing is I'm taking some of this stock and I am putting it into a little spritzer bottle. Well, what I've done is I have a fine mesh strainer that I poured it through to get some of the little beef pieces and stuff out, because it'll clog that spritzer. So that's the spritzer, and now we'll get this all set up and we'll get this out on the smoker. Okay, both of my wireless probes are in. They're both registering 30 degrees internal. There's probe 1. And this one back here is probe 2. This is the grill probe. And then once we get it out in the smoker, I'll pour that stock, that base, that broth into the bottom of this. Alright, so now we're going to fill up the hopper. And this is the Smokehouse brand from Sam's Club that I exclusively use. And we're going to get some dumped in the hopper up here. We're about halfway full. We're going to fill her up. Now this hopper will hold 30 pounds. It's rated for 28, but it will hold 30. I sat out here one day and we measured it out on a scale, and it does hold 30. I'll put a little bit more in there and top it off. Now this bag is 40-pound bag for $15 at Sam's. Now we're full. She's full. We're running on super smoke mode. And we'll be getting the brisket in here momentarily. Okay, so there we go. We've got the point and the flat. I got the probe in the middle. Probe's into the smoker. It's reading 32 degrees. The thermal mavens are reading the same temp. And now we're going to put that broth stock into the bottom of the pan. Okay. Put the whole thing in. I don't know if you can see it in there or not, but it's in there. Okay. Now we're going to close her up and let her go for the whole night. Okay, so it's about 9:30, and I'm going to. I got my porch light is casting a redness to my face. We got the brisket on. It's on super smoke, and I have my probes in. Now I have one probe set to 208 and the other one set to 140. Now the reason I did that is because at 140, when that meat hits 140, I'm going to turn up the heat to 250 because it's on 160 right now, super smoke. So when it hits 140, I'm going to turn up the heat to 250. I'm going to let it ride until it hits 165. When it hits 165, I'm going to flip it over and put it into the stock. I'm going to put it meat side down and fat side up. Now, as it's sitting on there now, it's fat side down and meat side up. Because what that's going to do is that's going to set my bark, for one. And two, as it's cooking, that fat that's on the bottom is going to drip down into that pan. Beef fat starts melting around 140, 145 temp, and it starts rendering down. So as that's cooking, that fat is gonna go into that pan, and then when I flip it over at 165, the fat is still going to continue to render down into the pan. I'm going to tent cover it. I'm not gonna wrap it. It's just going to be tent covered with foil, and then we're just going to let it go on 250 until she's probe tender at 208, 210, somewhere around there. We'll check on it in the morning, and we'll get back to you. Okay, so here it is the next morning, and we are 13 hours and almost 40 minutes in. Been running super smoke all night. The internal is 125, and we're getting ready to climb to 140. We're going to open her up, have a look, and give it a spritz. And the spritz that I'm using is just some of the beef stock from what we made to put in the pan. So let's give her a look. There we go. Look at that. Little spritz. Looking good. Okay, so after the long night of being in smoke mode, super smoke mode, this is down about 2 inches. And you seen last night that it was completely full. We're going on 18 hours and 25 minutes. It's at 128 internal. Normally I take this to 140, but it's getting late in the day, and I'm going to kind of push this along So we're going to put it in the pan and get it tented, and then we'll turn up the temp and let it go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove the probes so that I can take that off of this rack, and then I'm going to flip it over with the meat side down into this pan, and then I'm going to add more stock and broth as I need it. So now that I got the probes out, let me tell you that the bark on this is absolutely amazing. The herbs and the spices have all stuck and adhered to this absolutely perfectly. No binders, no nothing, just natural meat moisture. And now we're going to get it flipped over. Okay, so I got it flipped over. I got my probes back in place. And now we're going to put some foil over this to tent it. And then I'll go in and on the app turn up the temp to 250. And then we'll just let it go until it's probe tender. Now that is a thing of beauty. And it is probe tender. Not even any resistance whatsoever. 207.5. 206, almost 207. 209. 209. And not an ounce of anything dried out. That is how you do a brisket. Now we're going to take that out of the juice, and I'm going to flip it over, and we're going to reset the bark. Okay, now we're going to put it on. We got it on the main grate. We're going to reset the bark, dry it up a little bit, and then we're also going to have in this space some homemade mac and cheese. But that is phenomenal. And there's the homemade mac and cheese. Now, this glass dish is fire safe. This is a very, very old borosilicate casserole dish. This is one of the ones from the early 60s when Pyrex made dishes from borosilicate glass. There we go. Okay, so here we are. Now, the timer reset because we had a power glitch, brief power outage. So the timer reset to 1 hour and 45. This has actually been on since 9:30 Friday night, and it is now about 10 to 9 Saturday night. So about 23 hours, something like that. So let's get a look. There's the mac and cheese. And here was the brisket. We got the bark reset, which is what we were aiming for. And there is the macaroni and cheese, which can go a little longer. Get that cheese melted. But this is ready to pull off. There it is, all finished. Almost 24 hours later. Now we're going to get into it and cut it. Okay, here we go. Time for the cut. Oh yeah, just like butter. Look at that smoke ring. Yeah, I know it doesn't mean anything. That is how a brisket is done. That's a thing of beaut. That's one side. That's the point. Here we go with the flat. So pretty. And that's how it's done. That is the method that I teach people how to do it. You got a 1/4 inch smoke ring here. You've got moisture. You've got taste. You've got bark. You've got tenderness. Now, let's go for the proverbial bend test on a knife. Take a slice off of here. And this is extremely warm. Oops. There we go. That's how it's done, folks. Let's do this side. It's so tender that it's actually falling apart. Here, let's do this. If you can do that, and it just pulls apart with no resistance, you have mastered a brisket. Look, here's a part of the point. See how it just falls apart? That's what you want. That's what you're looking for. Peppy Joe's brisket method, and that's how it's done.